Hey everyone, checking in on the Canadian MJ names. We'll look at the US MJ names tomorrow as usual. We're going to look at the major 5. We're going to look at the tier 2, 3, Hexo, OGI, TRST, VFF, TGOD, N, KHRN, and NRTH. We're going to start on the weekly time frames and we will zoom in from there and we'll start it off with CGC. So what we've been noticing this week is that correlations are breaking from CGC, which is nice to have individual stocks doing their own individual thing. And that's really just money moving around in this space, trying to find the best opportunity, trying to find the greatest potential for short-term profit. And right now, it is telling us that CGC is not who people are looking for that. And really what it has to do, in my opinion, is a lot of liquidity being added to a lot of these names with their uplistings. So the fact that VFF has been uplisted, TRST is about to be uplisted, and that allows for capital to have more options to play. Back just a few months ago, CGC was really the only name that we had initially that the US traders could play with significant capital and significant liquidity to allow for that larger capital. So now we are seeing that shift a little bit, and there's no longer this funnel effect in terms of CGC being the only option for that in the US, and we have a lot more that we can be looking to play. And that definitely is a factor in terms of what people are looking for as traders. And on the weekly time frame here for CGC, again, just the premise that we've had for 9 weeks now, SPY is a perma bull for 9 weeks in a row. So we have no sign of weakness. We have no sign of consolidation. The daily uptrend has been very clearly intact the entirety of that 9 weeks. So when that changes, it'll be very notable and we'll watch the correlation. But until that happens, everybody is performing in a very favorable market environment. So we have our high, the all-time high, the low of the December dump. Our lower high has been set on the weekly time frame at 51.81, and now we're looking for a higher low to form. And on the weekly time frame here, if we see a break of 41.68, the low of this current consolidation, that's going to shift the most likely scenario. Because right now, if we hold that level, and that's the low of consolidation, and that's our weekly higher low, the odds of continuation are going to be high. If we break that level, the odds of continuation will decrease, and we'll then be looking for a higher low to form in the upper to mid $30 area, and we'll have this equilibrium playing out. So if that's our low, continuation, easy for the bulls to put together. If that is not our low, equilibrium into summer, April and May. Well, yeah, April or May is what we would be looking for here. So let's just see if we were to break 41.68, we pull back, then we would look to bounce and form a lower high, perhaps in the mid 40s, and a tightening range into spring and summer. So that's why that important support level is what we're watching right now. And we have the equilibrium on the daily time frame. So we have our high, low, lower high of 49.86, and now the bulls have to form a higher low compared to 41.68. The RSI on the hourly time frame getting a bit extended, but it did cool off today, and we had this little pump from bots being triggered and from social media talking about, CGC may spin off some properties into an REIT, which has been mentioned before, but you could see that it just triggered those bots and then gave that move back. But what that did is cool off the hourly RSI. So I was liking, heading into next week, the possibility of an hourly oversold bounce holding 41.68, at least to stay within this daily tightening range for a bit longer. And I'm still looking for that possible setup after seeing 4 consolidation days in a row now, and knowing that from where we closed, we would need to see another 6% of pullback before we break that support level. So keep an eye out Monday, Tuesday this coming week. If we do keep pulling back, let's see if we get a bottom fishing play utilizing 41.68 support, try and form that higher low. And if we do, we would look for a bounce into the lower $40 range. This is where things get tighter and tighter, and it's potentially worthwhile to just wait for the break, depending on how confident and comfortable you are as a trader, because if we do tighten up, that break should get some solid follow through. And that break would dictate whether we're going for continuation on the weekly or whether we break this support with the bear break, and then we're looking for weekly equilibrium into the summer. Cron on the weekly time frame. So we have our high, the all-time high, the low of the pullback, and now it looks like we might be setting our lower high here. So looking at the daily time frame, it's only been 1 day of consolidation. It was a very big consolidation day today, a bit of a bounce into the end of the day. So it all depends on whether or not we keep the daily uptrend, which right now the bulls are very comfortable with, because the last daily high or low was this double low of support at 1886. So anything over 1886 is a higher low, keeping these bulls in full control. So they have a lot of space to work with. Our new resistance level is 22. It's actually 2296. So a double top, a nice rejection from that resistance today to lead to that big 5% pullback. And we have a tightening range now to be watching. We had a little mini tightening range that broke bullish, but now if we're looking at the broader levels and the weekly time frame, if we pull back further on the daily this coming week, we'll be looking for a weekly higher low compared to 1886 and a tightening range here as well. So all in all, on the daily time frame, not a big deal for the bulls with the size of the pullback at this point, and it would only be a big deal if red volume kept up and if we dropped real quick down to the $20 level over the next couple of days, which is not a likely scenario in my opinion. So worth keeping an eye out for that tightening weekly range, and that's an equilibrium is definitely the most likely scenario that you look for after an all-time high and a 25% pullback in just about 4 days, and then a bounce to try and get back to the all-time high, but unable to get to those levels due to the size of the pullback. So tightening range on watch for Cron, still one of the lead bulls out of the major names. APHA, so we're watching for the potential same setup on the weekly time frame as Cron, obviously at different points in their chart history, but our high, low of the pullback, and if we can't get that break of resistance, we're going to look to pull back and form a higher low on the weekly compared to 808. So anticipated that the most likely scenario was going to be an inability to break 1095 and the need to pull back. Same thing as Cron, big red day today, but the bulls did buy some of that dip. And let's just look at the hourly time frame so we can anticipate what to expect for Monday. I would expect a lower high on the hourly for Cron on Monday. So even if we do start strong, don't get fooled, because the size of the dump and how long it's taken this bounce to take place at this point, we will look for an hourly lower high. And let's just see if APHA is the same thing, and it is. So all-out dump in 1 hour, slow and steady bounce the rest of the day, but still going to anticipate an hourly lower high compared to 1059 and a likely hourly equilibrium Monday and Tuesday. So APHA, if we get further pullback on this daily chart, it'll be an equilibrium with our high, low, lower high being set at 1059, and then we would look for a higher low compared to 808. And as far as little daily uptrend goes, the last little higher low was 890. So just like Cron, the bulls do have space to work with. They've been the lead bull this week out of the major names, both of those names, and that's created that space for those bulls to work with. So it's all dependent on how that hourly time frame plays out. And if that hourly time frame tightens up in an equilibrium for both of these names, Cron and APHA, and then breaks bearish, then we know that these daily charts are going to continue tightening up. If it breaks bullish, we're going to be right back to testing our recent highs. ACB. So ACB on the weekly time frame still maintaining the uptrend, because anything above 611 keeps that higher low. Declining bear volume is a good sign, keeping in mind that we had one less trading day this week. And it's an inside bar on the weekly time frame, so we know we're tightening up. And we have our low of the bear reaction, our high of the reaction of earnings. Higher low was established at 680. Looks like we topped out with a lower high of 725. That's the range to be watching on ACB. And you can see it's just a clear lower high pattern ever since the top of the bull move. Lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, lower high, still holding on. So 680 to 725 is the most important level. If we get a bull break, we're going to be looking back at 747 and then up to 790. And if we get a bear break, we're looking back down to 666, the recent low, and the potential of a loss of the weekly uptrend. Although the bulls still have space to work with here, so we're not going to lose that weekly uptrend anytime soon, but a real nice tight range. This is one to be watching Monday and Tuesday for a break of that tight range. TLRY on the weekly time frame, we're still watching that equilibrium where we have the low, high of the bull move, higher low, lower high, higher low, and we closed near the middle of that range, a little bit favoring the bears. 75.25 is key support, and 89.88 is key resistance, and actually favoring the bears a decent amount, much closer to breaking support $4 than we are to breaking resistance over $10. So tightening range on the weekly time frame. Bulls need a bit more follow through to try and make their way back towards $81, $82 to get to the midway point in this tightening range. And the bear break would be 75.25, which would have us looking down at 70 as the next level. So getting tight on the weekly for TLRY. HEXO, nice weekly continuation, a brief little higher low formed. We saw the bounce, overextended, higher low, and then continuation. On the daily time frame, we are pulling back, and it's healthy consolidation. You might look at this and say, oh, it's a cup and handle pattern, but the important part about the psychology of that pattern is that you reject from the left side of resistance. And here we obviously broke above it. And the psychology is important there because you reject from resistance, you see profit taking with the inability to see follow through, and then you get the break of both resistance levels at the same time and a lot of follow through. So we're still anticipating the daily uptrend to maintain. 708 is the last higher low. This is bullish consolidation. There's some lower wicks showing bulls buying the dip. And if we look at the hourly time frame, we lost the hourly uptrend to get to this point. We had the high, low, lower high, and look, it looks like 788 and 789 was a little double top, and then we broke support. But again, you broke support without a lot of follow through on the hourly. The bulls started buying that dip right away. That tells you to zoom out and look for a bull flag, and that's a potential bull flag on the daily time frame. So if this hourly trend changes back to the bulls, the daily higher low will be established, and we'll be looking back up at resistances of 789, that little double top, and then 809, which is the high of the bull move at this point. OGI, weekly time frame, absolutely worth watching because we are 10% away from all-time highs being tested. And key resistance short term is 815, and then we're looking up at 855. So on the daily time frame, we had the bull continuation, but then double topped. And 8 psychological is our double top, and we have to pull back and form a higher low compared to 718 to keep the daily uptrend. And this is a potential cup and handle pattern where we have the left side of resistance, the consolidation, the inability to see a break of resistance. Now it's leading to a pullback. And if this remains healthy with low bear volume and the bulls can hold 750 as support, that's just a visual target I picked out that said, if we were going to make this a little bull flag and a handle, what would need to hold? Just a rough visual 750. And then we would look for the potential bull break into continuation if that consolidation remains healthy and looks similar to what HEXO has going on. TRST, so uplisting is first day of real trading on Monday. Very big bullish volume, big green candlestick, daily time frame. It's a bearish reversal candlestick, but I always want to go into the hourly time frame to get the details and know exactly what was going on. And we had the high of the day, the low of the day. The bulls bought the dip, and we hit a new high of the day into the close. Little bit of profit taking, so we didn't close up at the high, which is notable, but still a very clear hourly uptrend because anything above 1195 keeps a higher low. I currently do have a smaller TRST swing position, and my reasoning for that is that I do believe that bulls would be more likely to hold on and see strength because of what VFF has done in its first few days being higher listed on the NYSE. So we're going to be watching. We're definitely extended on the daily time frame. So I'm going to be cautious and certainly exit if we lose the hourly uptrend. But let's see if we can break 1285 and go for 13 psychological with the first day of uplisted trading on Monday. VFF continues to shine as a lead blue sky bull, showing us the power of what happens when blue sky breakout takes place. Weekly time frame, certainly very overextended, and the volume is what has me starting to keep an eye out for potential bearish entries. And on the daily time frame, again, closing at the high, blue sky breakout, we had a surge at the end of the day to get us up to the high of the day. And it's the kind of situation where, obviously trying to short it at this point is going to burn you. And anybody that tried this week got pretty burned. And, it's stepping in front of a freight train at this point for those bulls. But we know we're going to pull back, and we know that when we pull back, it's going to be a hard pullback in terms of percentage gain, just like Cron. Cron ran crazy to all-time highs. It pulled back 25% in 4 days, and it wasn't the end of the world for the bulls. It's just the way markets work. If you go extremely overextended and see a huge move to the upside, you're going to pull back really hard. And, the bulls certainly survived. It wasn't a major deal, but it was 25% opportunity for the bears. Obviously, that's top to bottom. But, if you get the middle of that move, that's a easy 10% pullback. And that's something that we're going to be watching for on VFF in terms of a solid 20% pullback once that top is hit. It's nothing that the bulls can't recover from, but the volatility picks up once the the game of musical chairs stops. The music stops. The flip happens where you have demand clearly outweighing supply of shares right now. And there's going to become a point where supply of shares outweighs demand, and there's not a lot of buyers, and there's a lot of sellers locking in profit, and we drop 20% in just a few days. So there's no sign of that at this point, but we know when we get extended to this degree that it's not far away. And it's the kind of scenario where we look for that climax push where maybe we get a gap up open and a quick push up, a 5% move in the first 15 minutes, and then we completely give it back and hit a new low of the day. And that clearly tells us, okay, our temporary top is in and it's time to pull back and form a daily higher low. So that's something I'm watching for next week. But again, it's the kind of setup where it has to be a very clear trade. There has to be a very clear stop loss level for me to want to enter that bearish position. And if, the pullback happens without me getting the ideal setup and without the trade coming to me, it's no big deal. And I'll just skip it and not take that trade. But like I said, it's worth keeping an eye out for. T-God, as far as resistance goes on VFF, it's all psychological. So 1450, 15 psychological, the next two levels, and our most recent hourly support, looking at a short-term support of 1307 and then another level at 12. So you can see just how much space there is between the last two levels on the hourly time frame. Over 5% between those support levels, which again is why you drop so hard once that top is hit. T-God on the weekly time frame. So T-God established a weekly higher low at 306, and in order to confirm the trend change, we have to break 432. Still a long way to go, and we could trade within this channel for at least a few more weeks. The daily time frame, still not getting that follow through. It was very healthy consolidation. It was a bull flag pattern, but to confirm that bull flag in the following days, you want to see follow through and break that 385 resistance, which we haven't done. That's the only red flag. I mean, there's no big red volume or anything like that. It's just the inability to see that continuation, which would have kept those bulls very comfortable. So the most important resistance for me is 378 and 385, and key support is down at 352 at this point. And on the weekly time frame, trying to form, let's get the weekly up first. So actually, let's see, we still got the tightening. We did break resistance from last week by 1 penny, but we can pretty much call this, multiple weekly inside bars, break certainly imminent. And we were unable to see continuation over 116, so we're getting this pullback in the equilibrium setup. The low of the dump, high of the bounce, higher low. Lower high is now clearly set at 116, and we're looking for that higher low compared to 98 cents. We're probably going to get it, in my opinion. That's the more likely scenario. We'll look for the higher low to form Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll look for this to continue to tighten at least until later next week. So this one's going to be interesting, and it's one to watch. The tighter these patterns get, the more they're at the top of my watch list for when those breaks occur and the potential follow-through from those breaks. KHRN. Weekly time frame, all bulls. Inside bar broke bullish last week. Volume poured in this week to get that follow through. And on the daily time frame, higher lows now every day, the last 8 days in a row. So that's a pattern we watch for. And when that breaks, we know daily consolidation is coming. So if 394 breaks on Monday, we're looking for that pullback and for the higher low to form. It's a bearish reversal candlestick on the daily time frame. So I want to know, is the hourly uptrend still intact? And at this point, it is. We would need to see a break of $4 as a loss of the hourly uptrend and an indication that daily consolidation is coming. So $4 and $3.94 are the first two important support levels. If the bulls hold those levels on Monday, they keep strength and the potential for continuation. If we lose those levels, that's when we look for the daily higher low to form. And last, we'll wrap it up with penny stock NRTH. Covered this one a while ago, and we were looking for, this nice trend change that occurred where we had our higher low and higher high, and then that gave us an equilibrium and then a bull break a month ago, and we were looking at $1 psychological as a target, and that all-time high is 130, and we certainly want to pay attention to a penny stock in the MJ sector, especially if it gets up to that all-time high. Don't anticipate to happen, in the near-term future, but perhaps sometime in the next month or two, it could be possible if the market environment stays very bullish. So on the daily time frame, nice surge up today on big bull volume. The daily higher low was established at 72 cents. Another one up here at 76 cents. And then another one here at 80 cents. So anything above 80 will keep the bulls in full control. And the next resistance after 92 will be $1 psychological. And you can see we're just riding up the daily exponential support and keeping the uptrend in favor with a lot of bull volume over the last few weeks. So keeping an eye on it. Any name that's close to all-time highs, you want to keep an eye on it. VFF showing us why. keeping in mind that VFF was the perfect storm of fundamental uplisting with technical blue sky breakout. So, you know, a name like TRST, unless we get blue sky breakout, which I've got a raw potato bet riding on it. And that's another reason why I'm in a position to hedge. So if I do have to eat a raw potato, I'm making a good amount of profit, and that will help me cope with my lost bet. But the percentage gains on TRST compared to VFF after the uplisting, I would not be surprised to not see them that comparable. And again, it's just the complete difference of having a blue sky breakout versus not having that blue sky breakout. So the first couple days of this uplisting here for VFF, and it looks like this was the first uplisting day. Was that back? Need to double check here. Lots to keep track of in this sector. So I want to pick the US name to figure out when that uplisting date was. And it does look like it was on Wednesday. No, Thursday. Either way, let's see the percent gains that we've seen from that uplisting. And we're talking 32% in 2 days. From the close to the open on the new exchange in 2 days of trading, 32%. That's massive. And for TRST to see that at this point, again, I don't foresee that happening to that extreme of a percentage gain, and we'll see how it plays out. So to wrap up this round of videos, I want to talk about the Do Good Things movement that we've got going. We started the nonprofit in Canada, and we took all of the profit from the shirts and t-shirts that we sold, which certainly was not significant, but some people made donations as well. At this point, we have a little over $1,000, and the chart guys are going to round that up to $2,000, and we're looking for a place to donate that. So please give a suggestion for a nonprofit, and we'll go through those and pick perhaps our 3 favorites, and then from there we can all vote on them as a community and then start compiling some more funds for the next round. Appreciate it, and have a good day.